How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the first Descendant video. Now today we're going to be showing you the newest addition to the roster, Luna. Now I was very excited for this. I hopped on when the update came out and I've been playing and farming XP for Luna all day. Now I wanted to give a special thank you to everyone that helped me on the stream today. I'm very appreciative and thank you guys so much. Just to throw a couple names out there, this is not everyone, and if I miss your name, I'm sorry. But Sim, Richard, Kaysen, Manboy, Murrayman, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for helping me test all this. Thank you for helping me level, and much love to everyone from the stream. Now, without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into the build guide. So today we're looking at Luna, as I said before. Luna focuses on buffing your team by giving cooldown reduction, MP recovery, and damage. And we'll go over all that here shortly. And she has a very unique playstyle within the first Descendant. So per usual, we're going to start with Luna's passive. Luna's passive is Improvisation. Skill description. When using a skill to hit the note, inspiration gauge goes up. When the inspiration gauge maxes out, an enhanced skill can be used. Using an enhanced skill completely depletes your inspiration gauge. However, when failing to hit the note, inspiration gauge goes down and the skill fails to activate. While out of combat for a certain period of time, inspiration gauge is completely depleted. Now for the out of combat section, it works just like Bunny's does, or Kyle's, or anybody that has a special meter. When you are just not fighting an enemy, or the mission ends, or you're waiting to fight an enemy, you have a small amount of time before your gauge completely depletes, in which you'll have to refill your gauge all the way back up. So for basic info, inspiration gauge has a limit of 14, and I'll explain that and show that a little more in depth here shortly. The inspiration gauge increases on note success. Again, I will go over all of this in detail, and there will be videos showing exactly what I mean so you guys can see it, because she can be a little confusing. Inspiration gauge decreases on note failure, -1. Inspiration gauge recovery on enhanced state failure, ×4. And inspiration gauge depleted out of combat for 20 seconds. That means you lose all of your inspiration gauge. And inspiration gauge is Luna's unique meter, just like, again, like I said, Kyle's or Bunny's or Ajax's. She has her own unique resource. Now moving on to Luna's first ability. Now, her first ability is called Stage Presence. You need to activate this ability to use any other of Luna's abilities. Now, as you can see, it is a weapon, an exalted of sorts. So when you have this ability active, you can only use this weapon. You are not able to use any of your other weapons, and you have to have this weapon or ability equipped in order to use any of your other skills. So right off the bat, if you're a person that likes using your weapon to deal damage, this is not going to be the Descendant for you. You very rarely get to use your own weapon to deal damage, and you heavily focus on buffing your allies rather than doing damage yourself. Luna is a non-attribute Descendant. She's non-attribute tech in singular. However, that doesn't really matter because none of her abilities get skill power increases besides her tech, which is her little blaster you see here, the Stage Presence, and the damage on it is very subpar. Again, you don't use Luna to deal damage. The only thing you use this gun for is to build up your meter or your inspiration gauge and to clear out little ads that may be bothering you or pestering you. Now really quickly, I do want to note that you do not have to be 100% accurate with this. The bullets on Stage Presence do track. If you're shooting an enemy within the rectangle, they will track to the enemy starting from the center, then going to the left and then to the right. Again, I'll have some gameplay showing you guys exactly what that looks like. So it is nice that you don't have to completely focus on aiming because you are going to be focusing on hitting the notes correctly. And for the skill description, it states, equips a unique weapon. It will be unequipped when MP is fully depleted or all bullets have been fired. When the unique weapon is equipped, notes activate, allowing the use of skills. Notes can be hit through shooting and skill use. If the skill button is not pressed at the right time, the skill will fail to activate. Failing to hit notes through shooting significantly decreases MP. Successfully hitting note grants perfect pitch. Now, as I say, Luna is quite complex, so you're going to have to bear with me here. I'm going to do my absolute best to explain everything I can in depth. And if you have any questions, cares, or concerns, feel free to use the comment section and ask me anything you'd like. But we're going to go over everything that I've learned today through all of my testing and all of my time playing her, and I'm going to try to explain it to you guys the best I can. So for basic info, you have an 8-second cooldown. This is the only ability that is affected by cooldown mods or cooldown stats on your reactor. This is one of the main reasons we do not build into cooldown for Luna, because all of her other cooldowns are unaffected unless you miss the note. Now, you do not want to miss the note. Missing the note is the exact opposite of what you want to do. So wasting mod slots to build into cooldown when you'll rarely miss the note is unoptimal. It costs 15 MP, and it has a skill power times 193.4% base skill power modifier, but with my setup, it has 172.3% skill power modifier. Because we're dumping skill power, we don't need skill power on Luna. An MP decrease on shooting failure is -50, Meaning, if you shoot your weapon when it's not at the correct time and you do not hit the note, you're going to lose 50 MP every single shot that you miss the note. Perfect pitch is the buff you get when you shoot correctly on time and you do hit the note. You get a 1% skill power modifier increase. You can have a max stack of 25, meaning you can reach up to 25% skill power modifier increase. However, this damage is negligible and it's, again, you're not doing damage on Luna, but it is nice to know if you do hit the note on time when you're shooting your weapon, you do get a little bit of extra damage. And bullet recovery. Bullet recovery when using Exciting Act, you get 10 shots. Now this is the same for all three. You have 3 different buffs: Exciting Act, Relaxing Act, and Cheerful Act. Every time you activate the ability on time, you're going to get 10 extra shots into your bullet. Now something very important to know with this is that you do take some mods from the weapon that you currently have equipped in your hand. Now really quickly, I'm going to show you guys exactly what I mean by this. If we back out here and I equip my Enduring Legacy, I'll show you on my Enduring Legacy, all I have is Expand Weapon Charge, which gives me 32.4% rounds per magazine. Now, if I activate my first ability with my Perforator out, which does not have an Expand Weapons magazine, you're going to see that I'm going to get 30 shots.
Let the show begin!
Now, if I deactivate my ability, replenish my supplies, pull out my Enduring Legacy, which remember has the expanded magazine, I'm now going to get 39 shots. So the reason for this is it's taking that mod off of my Enduring Legacy and applying it to my Exalted Weapon or my Unique Weapon. Now while we're here, I'm going to do this video a little differently than I do the other ones. We're actually going to go over this skill as I do it, so that way in the timestamps you can stay directly at the skill and learn this specific skill, and then go to the next timestamp to learn their second ability. The reason I'm doing this is, again, because Luna can be quite complicated and I want to go over every interaction per skill, and I want you guys to understand exactly what I'm saying, and I'm going to show you in the range along with some gameplay in the background when I'm talking, that you guys can see how it works. So first things first, when you activate your first ability, this is her unique weapon, Stage Presence.
Let the show begin!
Music is going to play and there's different songs for each ability. Now, I can have this active infinitely. It will never drain my MP. It'll never drain anything. I can run around with this infinitely as long as I'm not missing shots. So you see how there's triangles passing along my screen. I have to activate the triangle. If you look over here, I have to press my fire button when this triangle gets within range. So within range, if you see there's a larger triangle expanding from the center, that is when I can activate this. Now, to match the beat up perfectly, and if you wanted to be in sync with the music, you'd have to wait for it to get directly to the center, but there is some leeway with this larger triangle and you can activate it as soon as it gets to the triangle. Now, if you look on the right, I'm losing bullets. Now remember, the only way to gain bullets after this is active is to use an ability, which will give me 10 shots per correct ability or per timed ability activated. And again, we'll go over that here shortly. The only way that I'll lose this weapon is if I use all 39 of my shots, or I miss enough shots to run out of MP. And this is what missing a shot looks like. You hear that beeping? And now I'm out of MP and I've lost my unique weapon. So we're going to replenish that real quick, and I'll show you that if you shoot on beat, you'll never lose anything. You literally could run around with this forever if you want and shoot at ads. Again, remember, you need to make sure that you don't run out of bullets, but to increase your bullets, if you see here, I'll activate my ability on time. I get 10 bullets. Okay. So to quickly recap everything we just went over, after activating your first ability, you're going to have triangles scrolling up your screen. You need to activate them when the larger triangle appears or in the center of the smaller triangle in the center of your screen. When doing so, you're going to do damage to the enemy that you're aiming at or any enemy within this triangle because the bullets do track. And you have 39 shots to use for this first ability unless you activate another one. All this ability does is set Luna up for using her other abilities. As you see, all of my abilities are now available, but if I put the gun away, none of my abilities are able to be used now. So without Stage Presence active, you cannot use any other abilities on Luna. It does take some mods from the weapon you have equipped in your hand when activating Stage Presence. So because I have the Expand Weapon magazine on my Enduring Legacy, you gain an additional or a few additional shots because it's taking that Expand Weapon magazine and applying it to Stage Presence. Now that's the overall gist of her first ability. Now let's move on to her second ability, Exciting Act. Skill description: changes notes, which means it changes songs, grants exciting performance to self, and grants exciting sound to allies within range. when using enhanced skill increases the effects further. All of your abilities are on a 6-second cooldown if you successfully get the note. This costs 20 MP, has a range of 8 meters, and the max range is 250%. Now we're actually running max range with this build. We are at 19.6 meters, the max is 20 meters. You cannot go over 250% max range, so you cannot go over 20 meters. That's including with her Transcendent mod that says it gives her 200% range. I tested it, and you cannot go over 20 meters regardless if you have that Transcendent mod on or not, but you do still get the speed boost for using the Transcendence mod, and we'll go over that a little bit later in the video. On note failure, so if you activate the ability at the incorrect time, you have a 15-second cooldown and it costs 20 MP. Exciting Performance. This is the buff that you grant to yourself. Exciting Performance gives you a skill power modifier increase of 20% for 14.5 seconds. If you put away your stage presence, you lose any buffs you've granted to yourself. Your allies keep the buffs for the duration that they were applied to them, but you do not keep any buffs yourself if you put away your stage presence. Enhanced Exciting Performance. Now this is when you have your meter completely full, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. When you have your meter completely full, you get an enhanced use of an ability. So the next ability that you press will be an enhanced version, and she'll do a specialized animation, which again I'll show you. With Enhanced Exciting Performance, you get a 65% skill power modifier increase for 14.5 seconds. Now again, Luna focuses on buffing allies, so the buffs to herself are nothing significant, but the buffs to her allies are really good. So Exciting Sound, this is the buff that's applied to allies within range, and again we do run max range on this build. Skill power increase of your max MP times 3.5% for a duration of 9.6 seconds. Enhanced Exciting Sound gives you a skill power increase of max MP, so your maximum MP, the amount of MP you have, times a 7.5% modifier, skill critical hit damage increase of 50%, and a skill critical hit rate increase of 35%. Now this is additive, so if you had 60 skill critical hit rate and you added 35 to it, you would get 95% skill critical hit rate. This would essentially put you at max almost. So it's really nice to give that 35% to Descendants like Blair or Lepic to give them more crits and more damage. And the duration is 9.6 seconds, as are all your other abilities. All of them are on a 9.6 second duration. Now to quickly show you exactly how you're going to use the enhanced version of your skill, we're going to activate our first ability.
Let's go.
And the fastest way to get to an enhanced skill is to activate your fourth ability correctly timed. So again, you want to wait for the triangle to be in range before you press your ability. So we're going to press our fourth ability, and you can see here it's changed music and colors. And now when we shoot an enemy, we're going to get one of our inspiration gauge per shot. Now we're going to go over this a little bit later, but I wanted to show you what an enhanced ability looks like. So you see now we're enhanced. Your abilities are going to be glowing, letting you know that you are in an enhanced state. So the next ability that you do press will be enhanced. So you want to pick wisely. Now I'm going to do it on the second ability because that's what I was just explaining to you. And you're going to see I'm going to do a specialized animation, a special dance, and this lets you know that you are using an enhanced version. Now you are also stuck in an animation, you cannot move and you lose mobility when using the animation or the enhanced skill. So make sure you're aware of that and you don't use it in a bad spot. So we're going to activate our ability and use the enhanced skill. Now that's what it looks like when enhanced. We're going to repress the ability and I'm going to show you what it looks like when you're not enhanced.
Having fun?
So you see the difference is very major, and they do that so that way you can tell when you're using an enhanced skill if you're not paying attention to your skill meter at the bottom. Now because I am recording this video alone, I do not have a subject to show you how the buff works, but I do have clips and footage to show you exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to these buffs. I'm trying to make it the least confusing as I can, but she is kind of a complex Descendant when you're first learning her, but once you get the hang of it, it'll be no problem. So we're going to go over the buff you give to yourself since I don't have anybody in here with me right now, and then I'll show you footage of what it looks like to buff your teammates. We activate our first ability and we activate our second ability on time. You see on the left side here, we have perfect pitch along with the stage presence in an up arrow. This is showing us that we have a skill power increase. Now you see we're doing 9,900 damage without a crit, and then it's going up because of perfect pitch, but when we lose the buff, we only do 8,800. So that's showing you that you're getting that buff, and that shows you how long the buff is active on the left side of your screen here. Now reactivating it does reset the ability, even if it's finished or not. So you can reset the duration as soon as cooldown comes off. And something that you need to know is every time you activate a skill correctly, if you look at the bottom, my inspiration gauge goes up every time a skill is correctly activated. Excuse me. So if I activate it at the right time, again,
Change the beat.
my gauge goes up by 1. This does this for every skill. So if I press my third ability,
Enjoy yourself.
the gauge goes up. Press my second ability again, the gauge goes up. Now this is used to build the inspiration gauge up so you can use an enhanced skill. Now to quickly show you what it looks like if you were to fail or miss the note and press your ability at the incorrect time, I'm going to show you exactly what happens when you do that.
Are you ready?
So I'm going to wait here and I'm going to press it at the wrong time.
Having fun?
Now you see the ability did not activate and we're on that increased cooldown. So now we don't have that 6-second cooldown, we have the longer cooldown because we missed the note. But it is really unique that you actually have a pattern to follow. So I can actually click these notes with my eyes closed because I've been playing Luna for so long now. This song's stuck in my head. It goes based off the beat of the song. So once you learn the beat and the rhythm, you can actually click these notes without even having to see them. So again, with playtime, you're going to master this and it's going to be no problem. You're probably never going to get an incorrect skill. But if you do hit it at the incorrect time, you do not activate the skill and you do get an increased cooldown. So make sure you're hitting the notes on time. Now with your second ability, you see when I activate it, we do get a ring around us. This is the radius in which we can buff our allies. So if an ally was to be in this radius or to walk into this circle, anytime while this ability is active, they're going to get the critical hit damage, the critical hit rate, and the skill power increase. So once an ally walks into this, or if you were to run over to them, that's when they'll gain this buff. Now I'm going to show you really quickly on the screen here that if an ally does walk into the ring or the circle, they will get the buff, and I'll show you what it looks like to be notified that they got the buff. And there's a couple things that let you know when your ally is buffed. Not only is there a moon rotating around them, which again I'll show you on screen, but there's also a text prompt that pops up above their head saying Exciting Act or Cheerful Act, whichever act you have up at the time when they walk into the ring, and it's going to tell you that they've gained that act in specific. So this is nice to just let you know, give you a couple indicators that your allies are getting buffed. Although the little moons or the little balls are hard to see, they are there. So if you want to be sure if somebody has the buff or not, you can run over to them or look from afar and see if they have that rotating around them. Now to quickly recap on Exciting Act, and I know I'm sorry, I'm doing my best to explain it the best I can for you guys, but Exciting Act is your damage buff. So when activating this skill unenhanced, you're going to give a max MP times a 3.5% modifier skill power increase to your allies. Simply put, when activating this skill unenhanced, you're going to give a skill power increase to allies for 9.6 seconds. That's it. When enhanced, you're going to give a larger skill power increase along with a 50% skill critical hit damage increase and a 35% additive skill critical hit rate increase, also for a 9.6 second duration. Now moving on to Luna's third ability, we have Relaxing Act. Changes notes. Grants relaxing performance to self. Relaxing performance recovers MP when hitting enemies while hitting notes. Grants relaxing sound to allies within range. When using an enhanced skill, or the enhanced version of Relaxing Act, increases the effects further. Basic info is 7-second cooldown with MP cost of 15, range of 8 meters with a max expendable range of 250%, meaning 20 meters. On note failure, you get a 20-second cooldown with the same MP cost. Now, relaxing performance gives yourself, Luna, MP recovery amount 0.8% for a 14.5 second duration. Enhanced relaxing performance, so if the ability is used while enhanced, you're going to get a MP recovery amount of 4.3% for 14.5 second duration. Relaxing sound, now this is what's applied to the allies. You give your allies an MP recovery amount of your max MP times 0.7% per second for 9.6 seconds. And if you use the enhanced version of Relaxing Act, you give your teammates MP recovery amount of your max MP times 13%, MP recovery amount of max MP times 2.6% per second, that's going to be the MP per second, so over time, a resource cost decrease of 56.1%, and a duration of 9.6 seconds. So Luna's third ability, Relaxing Act, is used to help your allies maintain their MP, the cost of their abilities, and their special resources, and to just help them be able to use their abilities more often because of the decreased cost. This also applies MP regeneration to yourself and allies overall. So you can think of this as your MP production. This is how you restore the MP for yourself and your allies. And in my opinion, I think this is my favorite song. It's actually kind of tough because they're all pretty good, but I think this one's probably my favorite. Now, I really quickly wanted to show you guys what it looks like to use the enhanced version of Relaxing Act. So I'll show you the enhanced version, what the animation looks like, and then I'll show you the normal activation. So we're going to activate the enhanced version. You see she throws up a heart there. And that's how we know we've used the enhanced version. And the normal animation looks like this. It's very smooth. Her normal animations are very, very smooth. And even while I'm running, if I switch between songs, you can see there's no delay in my movement whatsoever. It's super, super smooth. The only time you get stuck in an animation is if you use the enhanced version. And one more thing really quickly with Luna's third ability, as I said, you gain MP per successful shot. So if you shoot at the correct time and hit the note, you're going to get a little bit of MP back per shot. And I'm going to show you that really quickly. If you see my MP bar is not full, activate my first ability, activate my third ability, and every shot I hit on target is going to give me a little bit of MP. Now, because Luna's abilities does not use any MP, if you do not miss the note, you're not going to have any problems with MP management on Luna at all. I haven't had any cases where I've ran out of MP or haven't had MP to use. So I'm fairly certain that you guys won't have any issue with this either. But if you do want to gain a little bit of passive MP, remember that hitting the notes on time while the third ability is active, Relaxing Act, will give you just a little bit of MP back per shot. Now moving on to Luna's fourth ability, or her ultimate. This is called Cheerful Act. Now Cheerful Act has a couple of unique uses and a really cool interaction that I want to go over with you guys. But Cheerful Act changes notes, grants cheerful performance to self. Cheerful performance acquires inspiration gauge when hitting enemies while hitting notes. Hitting notes means shooting at the correct time. When you shoot at the correct time, cheerful performance is going to give you 1 increase to your inspiration gauge, and you need 14 in total. So every time you shoot at the correct time, if you shoot 14 times correctly, you're going to instantly get a full gauge of inspiration, allowing you to use one of your first three abilities, or 2 abilities, because your first one is your stage presence, will allow you to use Relaxing Act or Exciting Act at an enhanced version. So Cheerful Act is the best way, and I start all of my fights by going first ability, second ability, then Cheerful Act, and I build up my inspiration gauge. And I do this so that way I can instantly use a enhanced version of my second or third ability. We'll go over the gameplay loop a little bit more here in a minute. And this ability also grants Cheerful Sound to allies within range. When using the enhanced skill, increases the effects further. Cheerful Sound is the buff that's given to allies. Basic info states, cooldown to 45 seconds. This is your longest cooldown by far. And the range is 8 meters, max expendable range of 250%, so 20 meters with our build. On note failure, you have an 80-second cooldown, so do not miss the timing on this ability. And then you get Cheerful Performance, which is the buff to yourself. So again, you get 1 inspiration gauge increase per correctly timed shot. An enhanced Cheerful Performance gives you inspiration gauge increase of 2 for 14.5 seconds. Now, because I use Cheerful Act to build up my inspiration gauge in the beginning of fights, I hardly ever use the enhanced version of Cheerful Act. But when I do use the enhanced version of Cheerful Act, and again, I'll go over this here a little more in depth shortly with a video showing you exactly what I'm talking about. But when I do use the enhanced version of Cheerful Act, it's to reset the cooldown for all of my allies. Now again, we're going to go over this here in a second. Cheerful Sound. Cheerful Sound gives a 10% cooldown decrease for 9.6 seconds to all of your allies within range, and this cooldown is applied to anyone inside the circle. So they need to be in the circle to be receiving the buffs, and that goes for all of your abilities. So if somebody was to have the 10% cooldown and they were to leave my range, that cooldown is going to set back to what it originally is. So if you were getting a 10% increase, you're going to keep the cooldown you were at, but you're going to get your normal cooldown, then you're not going to get the 10% decrease. An enhanced Cheerful Sound gives a 100% cooldown and decrease with a 40.9% cooldown decrease per second. Now, I may have said that in a confusing way, but basically, the 100% cooldown decrease for enhanced Cheerful Sound resets all cooldowns for any Descendant within range. Now, this is awesome for a Descendant like Blair when they use their Truly Deadly Cuisine, and I'll show you a video of that here right now. When using the Truly Deadly Cuisine, it has a very long cooldown, so having a full reset to an ability with that long of a cooldown is really, really nice. On top of that, after getting the full reset, they get a 40.9% cooldown decrease for the entire duration of the buff, which is 9.6 seconds. So using the enhanced version of Cheerful Act can be very powerful if you're coordinating with your teammates and you know that they need their abilities reset to use their high damage or high impact abilities. Again, as I said, Luna is a very team-based Descendant, She excels at buffing her teammates and helping her teammates get more damage and utility out of their kit. Now really quickly, I wanted to explain to you guys why it's a little more difficult to get an enhanced version of Cheerful Act. And the reason for this is because the most efficient way to build up your inspiration gauge is to use Cheerful Act in order to build it up. But if you use Cheerful Act, you're going to have a 45-second cooldown that cannot be reduced by any cooldown mods. It is set at 45 seconds, so you're going to have to wait the 45 seconds to use the enhanced version of Cheerful Act. Aside from using Cheerful Act to build your inspiration gauge, the only other way, there's two other ways to build your inspiration gauge, is to cycle between your second and third ability, and I'll show you that here. If I use my second ability on time and my third ability on time, you see I gain 1 inspiration gauge per correct timing. Now, I could cycle through this and do this 14 times, which shouldn't take too long, but it'll take a good bit of time. And then I can use my enhanced 4th ability, or Cheerful Act. However, the only other way besides this to get your inspiration gauge up is to use Potent Collector. Now we'll go over that in the mod section, but those are the two other ways besides using Cheerful Act to build up your inspiration gauge. Now if you use Cheerful Act and you give yourself the ability to build your inspiration gauge really fast, so we're going to use Cheerful Act here. Now you see with this, I can build my inspiration gauge within seconds. Now when I have a max inspiration gauge, you can see my abilities are glowing, I can now use an enhanced ability. But the problem is we want to use our Cheerful Act at the enhanced state, but it's on cooldown. So now what you must do is stay in combat and wait out the 45-second timer before you can use the enhanced version of Cheerful Act. Now you can see that our Cheerful Act is ready to be used. So we're going to activate our Cheerful Act at its enhanced state, and you'll see the animation for that. Now what that does is completely resets cooldowns for all Descendants and gives them that 40% cooldown reduction, so it makes their abilities cooldown faster by 40% as long as they're within my ring here. Now Cheerful Act is the hardest to activate and takes the most effort because it is one of the best, because you do get the insane cooldown and the reset to your abilities. But it's definitely worth using if you're going to do something like a speed run and you want to reset a Blair's Truly Deadly Cuisine and give him 2 of them to use. There's uses for every single one of Luna's skills. I think she's very fun and very unique. She has a very specific playstyle that some people just won't like. But honestly, with the small amount of time that I have had with her, I found pretty decent impact with her kit when it comes to boosting others or other Descendants' abilities, along with helping the fluidity of other Descendants just feel a little bit better. So the people I usually run with do feel the difference when I run Luna, and on top of that, you're also able to run some unique builds with Luna because you can give that crit chance, which allows you to build into crit for certain Descendants that usually wouldn't crit, like Volby. Now Ultimate Volby could build into a crit build because you're giving a 40% crit chance most of the time, so it allows for some other niche builds or other specific type builds that you would only use in certain occasions where you'd have a Luna. And I think the community is 50-50 on her. I've seen lots of hate on her, and I've seen lots of love towards her. Me, I'm going with the latter. I love Luna. I think she's really fun to play aside from having no AoE, which can be changed, but I'll talk about that in the mods. But overall, I've enjoyed my time playing Luna. I think she was super fun to learn. And again, if you have any question, cares, or concerns, because I know there's a lot going on here and I know I may have missed a couple things and not explained something very well, but use the comment section because I do want to answer your guys' questions, and I will be answering every question you guys ask. I am in the comment section very frequently, and I do respond to every comment that needs a response. Now we're going to have a special segment here that's going to go over all of the tips and tricks or anything that I think is very important for everyone to note when it comes to all of the skills regarding Luna. Now the first thing is going to be Expand Weapon Charge gives you more bullets in your stage presence. This is your exalted weapon or your unique weapon. Passionate Sponsor does work with Luna, however we'll go over that more in the mod section. You can instantly reset all skills when using the enhanced version of Cheerful Act. You also get a 40% cooldown after you reset all cooldowns, as long as the Descendant is within your range. Your buff applies to allies that enter the circle late. They do not have to be within range to get the buff. If they want to come to your circle later, or if you want to go to them later, you can give them the buff that way, and the buff will be applied to them for the duration of the buff. The cooldown rate for successful notes cannot be decreased, but the cooldown rate for failure notes can. However, this is a waste of mods and you're not going to want to do this because your goal is to not fail any notes anyways. Your duration can be increased, so the duration of the buff, which mine is at 9.6 seconds from a base 5 seconds. Your buffs do not stay on you if you were to deactivate stage presence. So the buffs that are applied to yourself, once you get rid of stage presence, your unique weapon, you lose every single buff instantly that you did have. And when it comes to the damage bonus, I've noticed a lot of people saying that it doesn't do anything, that it's really weak. When I was testing it with Blair and Lepic, and obviously I used the same bosses and the same subjects for each test, I was adding 1.2 million damage to every critical hit that Blair and Lepic did. So every shot that crit had an increased damage of 1.2 million. And with Lepic, that's really good because he gets multiple crits at a time. It brought the damage that a Lepic could do on Dead Bride from 44.4 million to 52.6 million. And the testing on that was not as extensive as the others, so the damage can vary from person to person, but you're going to be critting very often because Luna buffs the crit chance and the crit damage. The max expendable range for all of your abilities, including with the Transcendent mod that gives you 200%, is 20 meters. No matter what you do so far that I've found, your circle will not extend more than 20 meters no matter what you do. So keep that in mind and don't overmod for your range. And if you were to be using Luna's Nimble Footsteps Transcendent mod, there's going to be stacks that you can gain. If you were to miss or mistime your ability, you're going to lose half of the stacks you currently had. So if you had 20, you would be reduced to 10, and then from 10 to 5, etc., onward and onward. Now that's just a few of the things that I think is very important to note for Luna. And I know this video is set up a little differently than my other build guides, but I thought that this would be the best way to help explain everything and kind of have a little recap here of everything that's important to note with Luna. And moving on from that, we're going to go straight into the mods. Now I messed around with quite a few different combinations of mods for Luna, and I was doing that live on stream. If you ever want to see if I'm live, come stop by. I stream right here on YouTube. But this was the best I could come up with. And unfortunately, Luna comes with a Xantic mod slot, which kind of decreases the value a little bit because there's nothing in Xantic that's of value besides Potent Collector. But we're going to start up here in the top left. For the skill module, we're actually going to go to the test tab and I'm going to show you Nimble Footsteps. Now looking at the Nimble Footsteps Transcendent mod, it says here you get Vivis when using a skill to buff allies. Now, something to note for this is that you can't apply the same buff over and over. So if you applied Exciting Act to an ally, and then you were to press your Exciting Act ability again, if it was not within the duration of your buff, which is 9.6 seconds on my base build, you would not get another stack for refreshing the buff. You actually need to apply another buff entirely. So what you would need to do is wait for that buff to run out to give yourself more stacks. This kind of makes it more valuable to run decreased duration because you want the buff to run out faster so that way you can gain more stacks and keep your speed boost. Now it says here skill range boost ratio per required stack is 10%. What I was thinking that's meant in my head, and I could be reading this wrong, is that you get a 200% range boost when you have 20 stacks. Now I don't know if I'm reading this correctly, but either way, this does not increase your range past 20 meters regardless. So if I'm reading this wrong, please correct me in the comments because I'm not fully understanding. I've had lots of farming today and it's just not clicking in my head what it means by boost ratio per required stack. But for movement speed boost ratio per stack, I know that that means you get a 20% movement speed boost when you have 20 stacks. And it's 1% per stack, so if you had 2 stacks, which is the minimum required stacks, you get boost to your movement speed. However, as I said, correct me with the skill range boost ratio per required stack in the comments if you understand what it means, or tell me if I'm understanding it correctly. That way I can correct the information for you guys. But regardless, this Transcendent mod is nice because you get the 20% movement speed. If that's something you want, because there's nothing really of value that you can put into the Xantic slot, besides the Potent Collector, as I said, you can definitely take out Potent Collector and slot in the Transcendent mod here. Now our other Transcendent mod I actually don't have, and we're going to go ahead and go to the access info here. We're going to look up Luna and we're going to go over that Transcendent mod. Now because I don't have Noise Surge, I don't know if this turns her AoE into a damaging ability, but if it does turn her AoE into a damaging ability, this could put her on par with Bunny. Now, I don't think anybody will surpass Bunny. Bunny is the ultimate farming frame, and she will probably always be the ultimate farming frame. But it would be nice if this does add some damage to Luna's kit. Now, once I get this, obviously I'm going to make another build guide as I do for all my Descendants. I will make an in-depth end-game guide going over all the Transcendent mods after more testing has been done and the absolute optimized build that you can do for Luna. I'll probably have her maxed out with Formas by then. And if I do see that this does add really good AoE ad clearing capabilities, this is definitely the mod that I'm going to slot into her, because having that ability to do that damage is so nice for farming XP or doing void fusion reactors, etc. So if anybody does have the Transcendent mod that may turn her ability into a damaging ability, let me know how it is in the comments, because I'm really interested myself. And for the first mod, we're going to go for Skill Extension. Skill Extension adds a 36.5% duration to the buff you apply to your allies. Enlightenment gives us max MP. The reason we go for Enlightenment is because the more MP we have, the larger buffs we give to our allies. The potency of our buffs that we give are tied to the max amount of MP we have times a modifier, whatever the number may be, so 7.5%. For the enhanced version, etc., you can look at the abilities and it'll tell you exactly how much it multiplies your max MP by. And again, that determines the potency of your buffs for your allies. Agony is again for the max MP and the defense to give us some survivability and increase the potency of our buffs. Maximize duration. This gives us a skill duration of 40% to increase the duration that the buffs last on ourselves and allies. And the skill power modifier of minus 21.1% is because we're not focusing on damage on Luna whatsoever. Luna does not do great damage. She is not meant to be a damage dealing Descendant from as far as I've seen so far. So I dump skill power the most I can to give myself more duration or any stat that could help me in giving my allies more buffs and have more uptime on my skills. So we dump the skill power here and go for the duration. Then we have increased HP, which is, as I've told you many times in my builds, it's almost a staple in every build. And on top of that, Luna does scale well with HP because she has a higher base HP than a lot of Descendants. And you can see that by checking her stat graph in the Descendant tab. Then we have Skill Expansion, which gives us effect range of 92.3%. With this and Amplification Control, we reach that maximum or just under the maximum amount of range we can get. So Skill Expansion again just gives us the range, and Amplification Control gives us more range with a little bit of shield. Now I'm not a fan of shield whatsoever, but this is the best mod to slot in here to give you that 30% and to give me a little bit of shield as well. And then finally we have Potent Collector. Now Potent Collector does work for Luna, even though it's not stated here on the characters through custom resources. But Potent Collector is so minimal, and I don't feel the value when I'm running Potent Collector. It's very rare that I even notice the difference when running it. So honestly, I don't even want to slot Potent Collector, but if we take a look at Xantic here, we're honestly working with a pretty crappy set of mods. We have MP Collector, but MP doesn't really matter on Luna, so we don't need that. Walk a Tightrope. This is when your HP is lower, but you're not doing skill power. You're not doing skill damage with Luna, so we don't need that. You get a firearm attack, which could be nice, but guess what? You can't use your weapon, so Walk a Tightrope's not good. This would be the one that you would slot. We don't need anything regarding skill power. You could go Electric Antibody, but you know, you're only getting electric resistance. You could go for Maximize Electric Resistance if you really want, but max HP loss is just bad. Then you have these mods over here, the Safe Recovery, Second Wind. They're okay. You could go for HP Heal and skill power minus 5%. None of them have a significant enough value for me to really want to slot them. You could also go for the Outgoing Damage modifier and the HP. Again, you could go for any of these. All of them are semi-useful. Energy Collection, but again, MP is not a problem with Luna. HP Heal if you wanted to get more heal by picking up those health packs off the ground. All of this to basically say that the Xantic slot is pretty useless when it comes to building for Luna. So the only thing I can really find worth slotting is Potent Collector, even though I don't think it is. Again, if you wanted to drop out Potent Collector and you wanted to slot in her Transcendent mod, be my guest. Nimble Footsteps is great for that increased movement speed that you get. So the choice is yours, whatever you decide to do. But I think for me, I'm actually going to leave Nimble Footsteps in, and this is going to be the final build that I have for Luna. Now, if you look over here in my bossing tab, this was specifically for Gluttony. Now you can copy this. This is not maxed. This is not perfect in any way, but this is what I was running when I was running Luna on Gluttony, because Gluttony hits like a truck. And we might have a guide coming out for him. We'll see how many there are out on YouTube. There'd be no point to make one if there's already 20 videos, but this is the mod set that I decided to go with to increase my survivability, because again, he hits like a freaking truck. That is a really good boss, and Nexon did a good job with implementing him into the game. That's going to pretty much cover everything for the mods. If you have any questions or recommendations, leave it down in the comment section below. Tell me why you would switch a mod and what you would switch it for. And I love having those type of discussions with people because it helps me learn the game a little more, and maybe you'll learn something new as well. So moving on from the modules, we're going to go to our weapons. Now, because we cannot use our weapons on Luna, we're not going to go over it really. We're just going to talk about the Enduring Legacy, or any weapon you decide to use. Make sure you have an expand weapon charge in it to give yourself more shots in your stage presence or your unique weapon. Aside from that, there's nothing you need to do for your weapons because you can't use them. However, if you wanted to start out an intercept fight, obviously I would always recommend the Afterglow Sword. The Afterglow Sword is an amazing damage dealer, and it helps you just get that damage off on those weak points before you start running around giving out buffs to your allies. And moving on from weapons, we have our reactors. Now, because we're not using skill power and skill power boosts do not matter to Luna whatsoever, I do have this one with tech, but I'm not running the optimization condition because, again, I don't care about skill power boosts. I don't care about skill power damage or skill damage at all on Luna. What I do care about is the skill effect range and the skill duration up. These are the two most important, and this is what you want to get for a God Roll Reactor on Luna. The optimization condition and the skill power boost ratio does not matter. If you have a reactor with skill effect range and skill duration up, this is the one you're going to want to run, even if you're not meeting the optimization condition or getting any boost ratios. Now, if you look over here at my stats with my everyday build or just my normal use build, I have 17,500 defense, 483 shield, 7,700 HP, and 383 MP. For my external components, I go for the Slayer, the first effect of Slayer to get the general rounds capacity. I run a defense with a max HP and a DBNO, which stands for down but not out. This is when you're in the down state, it just lets you stay down a little longer before you bleed out. Then I have an Annihilation sensor with defense, max MP, and MP recovery. I use this for the defense and the max MP because remember, our potency of our buffs does base off of our max MP. And I'm using the Annihilation set for the 5.7% skill duration. And I use an Annihilation memory for max HP. This just gives me the max HP and the gold 4.1k defense. And again, coming with that Annihilation set of skill duration plus 5.7%. And then finally, I'm using the Slayer processor, giving me max HP, max shield, and shield recovery. I would like to get a little bit of a better Slayer processor, but this is the one I have right now, and it's honestly not too bad. I'm just kind of a hater on shields, so that's why I don't really like having max shield on my components. Now that we've covered everything that we need to with Luna, and we've gone over almost everything that I can think of off the top of my head, I wanted to say thank you guys for watching the video. This has been by far my longest build video I've done and required the most testing because it's a new Descendant. I had to make sure everything worked correctly. Lots of testing going on with how the buff is given out, how to acquire the buff, etc. So if you'd like to see that kind of stuff, as I said, this was streamed live here on YouTube. You can stop by the stream and hang out, maybe make some suggestions, ask me any questions. I also do viewer help every now and again, helping you guys get past some intercept bosses that you're just not able to get past right now. And I do oftentimes pick up some people from the chat to do XP farms or amorphous farms, anything that I would need an extra person for. So if you guys are interested in anything like that, feel free to stop by and hang out with us. As a quick disclaimer, as I said, there's probably a few things that I missed because of the length of this build guide and the complexity of Luna's kit. So if I do find anything I missed, or if anybody leaves a comment in the comment section that's incorrect, please don't attack them in the comment section. I've seen that a couple times. Everybody makes mistakes and everybody has confusion sometimes, especially with somebody as complex as Luna. So just correct them politely, please. Make sure that we're always being friendly to each other and spreading love, guys. And thank you guys all so much for everything. I appreciate your support. It means the world to me. But thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.